Do you believe in the two-state solution?
It is not upon me to decide. If Iran had not the leverage of its missile program, I don't know where we would be now. Free access to information is restricted.
I don't want to go deeper in this matter because you are living there and I don't want to complicate your life.
So it is my choice. I stand behind what I say.
Hola a todos, bienvenidos a Under Periodismo. Mi nombre es Joaquín Sánchez Mariño y en el video de hoy vamos a hacer una entrevista que hace mucho tiempo tenía ganas de hacer y sobre todo en el contexto de la guerra entre Israel e Irán. Una entrevista con un iraní que me hable desde Teherán. Cabe, mi entrevistado el día de hoy, estuvo los 12 días de la guerra en Teherán, en su ciudad, en su casa, no quiso irse y desde ahí hacía distintos envíos, escribía textos y contaba lo que estaba sucediendo. Yo fui hablando con él, una comunicación muy difícil porque se cortaba la conexión o porque tenía miedo por algún bombardeo, pero fuimos hablando y finalmente aceptó darme la entrevista. Es para mí un testimonio muy importante de escuchar qué piensa un iraní de este conflicto y no se escucharon mucho esas voces, casi todas las entrevistas son de actores laterales, así que para mí tiene muchísimo valor. Una aclaración y una dificultad. Finalmente cuando me da la entrevista, cuando termina la guerra, cuando empieza el cese al fuego, me da la entrevista y me pide hacerla directamente por Instagram. Me pide que para hacerla quiera hacerla en vivo a través de mi canal de Instagram. Era la única conexión y me pareció bien, me pareció que era justo para que pudiera verse completa sin censura. Si quieren ver la entrevista completa la pueden ir a ver ahora a mi canal de Instagram donde está la hora y pico de conversación con todas las dificultades del caso, de conexión y demás. Y si no, acá una versión resumida, editada para evitar algunos problemas de blancos o momentos que no se podía hablar y subtitulada. Para mí tiene muchísimo valor. Mi nombre es Joaquín Sánchez Mariño, repito, pueden suscribirse al canal, me harían un gran favor. Y ahora vamos directamente a la entrevista desde Teherán con Cabe.
Hi, Cabe, how are you?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. So, hi, Cabe, thank you very much for this interview. Where are you now?
I'm at home at my home office.
In
Here
Tehran?
in Tehran, yes, I'm in Tehran. And I stayed here for the whole time since the aggressions began by now 2 weeks ago. And I decided to stay and I'm still here and I'm alive. And I'm sorry, we intended to do this a bit earlier, but I was overwhelmed by the speed of the things and had to get things done. So I'm happy we could manage to do this now.
Cabe, can you tell the people what do you do for a living? You're a journalist?
I started as a documentary photographer and then I grew into journalism. I work as an author. What has been important for me always has been to maintain my independence. So the longer I have worked, the less I have worked with mainstream media, and the more I have tried to focus on long-term personal projects where I can dig deeper into things, when I can tell things beyond news, beyond journalism.
Let's go to a complicated issue. When you speak with when I interview Israeli people, they always say that Iran is a country seeking for the destruction or the disappearance of Israel. So that's how they explain, or that's why they understand Iran is a threat for their existence. So do you think that is true? Is in the objectives of the Iranian government to destroy and disappear, to get the disappearance of the Israeli state?
What this question postulates is the hostility of Iran, and it postulates as if Iran was a hegemonious mass, which it is not. Regarding Israel and the existence of Israel, it is a very critical issue. The Israeli society in general, I would say that there is this brainwash going through since everyone in the Israeli society has to go through the military service and has to serve for a Jewish supremacist state. And the postulate on which this question is based, I take an issue with that. And then it's about the existence, speaking from a standpoint of international law. There is no right for countries to exist. Israel does exist. It is what it is. And it is a very powerful state. And that is the given. Iran has never attacked any country in its modern day history, whereas Israel has been very aggressive towards all of its neighbors for the past 70 years, starting with the Yom Kippur War. And you see, like, the expansion of Israel, the idea of the expansion of the Jewish state to the historic biblical Jewish areas. In this postulate, they do not criticize their own position. It's just seeking a hostile entity to project their problems on it, in my opinion.
I wouldn't say that no one attacked. I mean, many, maybe not countries, but entities attack Israel. Hezbollah, Hamas, they attacked Israel. It's proof that they are linked with the Iranian state, that the Iranian state has their own proxy groups that they attack Israel. So they have been under attack.
Yes, but what is the point you are trying to make?
No, because you said that they were never, they attack other countries. They were very aggressive. That's what you said, which I agree. But my idea is to understand that it's more complex, that there's no perfect goods or perfect bads. They have been under attack, and that's how they explain their attack. It's not I am not defending Israel. I just making the point.
I am not attacking Israel either. It's just what we have to say, what we have to accept, like, is that Israel acts, and that this is a historical thing. Nakba started over 78 years ago. It started when they started expulsing Palestinians, native Palestinians, from their lands. That's when the conflict started. And it is a continuity of British colonialism. And then people, if you're being attacked, if Argentina is attacked today by Chile, for example, they have a legitimate right to defend themselves. And then when Arabs started defending themselves, Israel pulls the history line after the attack, as if there had been no past to the attack. And that has a continuity with the Israeli state. Hezbollah didn't exist in the 1960s. Israel has, but Israel, during the Lebanese civil war, Israel has conducted massacres. Israel has occupied parts of southern Lebanon. And if you saw that hostility among a population, and that hostility is sown by a racist narrative that makes a certain race or religious belief superior than others. And then those people who have been under your rule, under your hostile rule, if once they retaliate, then there is the Jewish state coming and saying, hey, we were attacked. But history proves them wrong. If we shed a light on Israel, we have to start with the British mandate in Palestine. And if we start from there, we see a colonial continuity, and we see the Jewish state as the extended arm of the empire, basically.
Do you believe in the two-state solution?
It is not upon me to decide. It is upon Palestinians and Israelis to decide. Ideally, I think, as an outsider, a one-state solution where Palestinians and Israelis could live in parity before law, which is not given in Israel because there is no parity between Palestinians and Israelis and between Jews and Muslims there. If there was parity, if there wasn't this apartheid there, then a one-state solution, a free state, name it whatever you want, that would be ideal. But if that is feasible in our lifetimes, I don't know.
Okay.
Chances are low.
I know it's not simple, but when they say Iran wants the destruction of Israel, do you think that the people of Iran want the destruction of Israel or not?
It is not upon the people of Iran to decide, honestly.
But you have an opinion.
It is simplistic. This narrative has a very simplistic postulate again, because Israel is a settler colonial state. And yes, a settler colony is outdated. That should not exist. But Israel, like Jewish people, I mean, nobody is calling for them to cease to exist. Whereas this formulation that Iran or Iranian people would want the destruction of Israel, the Jewish state, the postulate in itself is wrong, I would say. Israel, like as it is now, is an extension of the empire. It's a machine of colonial continuity, and that is outdated if we want parity for the people in this world, and in particular for that part of the Middle East.
What do you think about the Iranian government? Are you allowed to speak freely, or you prefer not to talk about your own government?
I have a very critical stance on the Iranian government, but the thing is, we have to differ between internal issues in this country and the issue when the country is under attack. Internal issues have to be solved in the long run with the involvement of the people, but it should not be changed by gunpowder. I personally am very critical of the Iranian government, of the decision makings, and I hope it will change to the better within my life. I've been having big issues with the Iranian government ever since we have had an electorate in this country. So even before the Islamic Revolution, like when the rule of law never set foot in this country, we have had the rule of expediency here. And that is an issue we are still having. If we would have the rule of law as it is, we would be much further. But then again, there have been all over the years, as I have also mentioned in my second or third dispatch recently, so many vile methods of conflict engagement from the empire in broader sense to keep Iran weak. So that there have been so many outer factors pressing Iran, like a coup d'etat. We have had a revolution, dropping a Shah, putting others in power. We have had an imposed war where Iraq was supported by the United States covertly, just putting constant pressure. We have had this sanctions regime We have a visa regime now with Europe and most Western nations. It is very hard for Iran the Iranians to travel outside the country. We have this economic sanctions regime. So keeping Iran as weak as possible, because it could be a very strong pole, as is China, as is Russia. And just criticizing the Iranian government internally for its horrible human rights report is not just. We have to see the bigger picture.
Let me ask you what you think about the nuclear program.
I am not defending that. I am not defending the Iranian government.
No, I understand. I understood, but I understand. I don't want to go deeper in this matter because you are living there, and I don't want to complicate your life. What do you think about the?
So it is my choice. I stand behind what I say. But please continue.
No, what do you think about the nuclear plan of Iran? Do you know what's happening? Is this here? Everyone is discussing. Is destroyed? Is not destroyed? Do you think it should be continue? Do you think it's important to get the atomic bomb? You don't prefer? What do you think about it?
Well, the thing is regarding energy, I think energy production, I think it would make much more sense with the amount of desert we have in Iran to invest in solar energy. And personally, I oppose the concept of nuclear energy from an environmentalist point of view. But then, regarding Iran's nuclear energy sector and the scrutiny it has been facing ever since it came into existence, it is not just. Like the scrutiny Iran is being put under is not just, in my opinion. And regarding the allegations for a nuclear bomb, I do have access to as much information as you have. So I don't have any privileged access to any information regarding those things. But the thing is, Iran is first and foremost, for now, part of the NPT, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Mm-hmm. At least there is no communicated will to bring an atomic bomb into existence. On the other hand, the way Iran is or has been treated on the international parquet, having a leverage makes a lot of sense. Like in this recent conflict during the past 2 weeks, if Iran had not the leverage of its missile program, I don't know where we would be now. I don't know if it would be possible to have a live video now, because then Israel would have allowed itself to do far worse. But then there was the leverage by this very sophisticated missile program Iran has. In that language of power, I do understand a rush for nuclear leverage, whereas I personally oppose it.
How did you get all this information? Yeah, the media there is open. You could read all this. You were aware of all what's happening, what the people is saying around the world, or there is a media blockage in Iran?
I wouldn't say there is a media blockage, but in general, the access to the internet is restricted. So if we presume that nowadays, in the age of information, the primary information source of people is the internet, then like the access, since the access to internet is very restricted, you cannot access all websites. It's like Instagram, where we are having this live now, is restricted. You cannot access that with regular internet connection from Iran. You do have difficulties accessing information from Iran. So free access to information is restricted. But then there is the media landscape in Iran, which is also quite restricted, to be honest. At the same time, the Iranian media was reporting very humane about what was happening on the ground in Iran. It was not regurgitating the propaganda of the Israeli military, as many of the Western mainstream media outlets were doing. So you had an access to the happenings on the ground, what had happened, who was killed, why were they killed, the human toll of the situation. That was very palpable. As a media professional, I have a different literacy in accessing information, and I have learned to work myself around the internet restrictions. So I could access information, but then again, up to this day, we don't have reliable information on what has been hit, or apart from the claims of the Israeli military. Same thing goes for the retaliation attacks inside Israel. So when Iran has hit Israeli towns, townships, settlements with missiles, the Israeli censor allows only reports from civilian areas, but not from military areas or restricted areas. Therefore, there is no reliable information at this moment, as we are having this live, what has been hit, what has been the depth of the damage there. Same goes for Iran. We don't know. It's not accessible. As a journalist, I was not allowed to access the sites that were hit.
What are the Iranian news outlets saying right now about this ceasefire? Or earlier I asked you if you think this peace will last, and you correct me. You said ceasefire. What do you feel inside? Is this a ceasefire? Is this a peace? What are the news outlets saying?
Well, 2 nights ago, I was on the rooftop here, and the blasts were coming closer and closer. I would have had nowhere to go if they would hit really close by. And many people died. Hundreds of people died that night, hundreds of civilians. This is also what most news outlets are addressing. Humane, empathetic report on what has happened during the days of conflict.
The information that I have is almost 700 Iranians were killed.
There are differing information, like there are different human rights groups publishing numbers. Then there is the government who has published a number, but it is going to be updated. So there is no reliable data, but 700 is a conservative estimate. I have also read about 1,100, but it's also unclear how many military and how many civilian people have been among them. And then again, if people are like young men on draft, do you consider them as civilians, or do you consider them as military personnel? It wasn't their choice to be there. But let's say something around 1,000 people have been killed. And for what? But your question was something else as well. It was about the Iranian media, what they're addressing, and whether the ceasefire is lasting. From an analytical point of view, I think it will not last. If we look back into the history of the Jewish state of Israel, there is a long record of breaking ceasefire agreements whenever they felt so. Regarding the objectives they had communicated at the beginning of the conflict, they couldn't achieve any of them. They managed to excessive damage to this country, to its infrastructure, but they didn't achieve their aims. So they do have a motivation to attack again, as they had also in Lebanon, as they did in Lebanon. They started breaking the ceasefire from the first day on. So I think there will be a breach of the ceasefire here as well, whereas Iran, with the Strait of Hormuz, has a very heavy leverage to face that.
Why or when do you decide first to stay in Tehran and don't leave the city when the bombarding started, and when and how you decided to tell what's happening in your Instagram profile, to do your dispatch, that I imagine that it has some risk in your country to speak freely. So when and why you decide these both risky decisions?
There was this first wave of attacks on Iran, starting by June 13th. The scope was unclear, but what was clear was that they were quite surgical. There were points being hit. There was not a mass bombardment happening. And given that I have worked in conflict zones, it was a decision to make: what is safe? Where would I go? If I would go leave the capital, would I have the same access to information, to infrastructure as I do have here? That was the logical decision to stay here. But then there was the political decision that I shall not give in to this panic being induced by a hostile party. There was Trump tweeting that Tehran shall evacuate, and that induced mass panic here. But if I give in to that, then I'm not thinking with a sober mind. So that was a political decision.
There was a lot of people leaving Tehran.
The people started leaving very soon. Very soon. It was a weekend when the first attacks started. Thursday to Friday. So it was weekend, and people had already left. There was a long weekend because there was a public holiday afterwards. There were not so many people in town as during normal times. But then people came back on Sunday and Monday after. There were attacks on central Tehran. When there were blasts and huge clouds of debris arising in central Tehran, that was the moment the Tehran population, the Tehran market, decided to close down and to leave in mass panic. And that was maybe a day after Trump had tweeted for Tehran to evacuate completely. And there was this explosion when I looked out of my bedroom window, and it was just a kilometer away from me. There was this huge cloud of debris, and it turned out that it was 2 streets away from the patisserie where I frequent, where I buy croissants occasionally. So it was closed. It was closed, and if I had been in the patisserie in that moment where I had been a day earlier, it would be a different issue. But still, it was punctual. It was not en masse. For me, it was a logical decision to stay here.
To tell what's happening and to write in your profile in your Instagram profile. Why did you decide to do that? Does come with a risk in your country?
Actually, the past 2 years, I have been very passive with publication because I've been doing some long-term research. I've pulled back myself. I hadn't much cooperation with media for the past 2 years. Before that, I was in Afghanistan and I was doing a lot, and then some stuff from Iran. But then I pulled back and I thought I want to do some stuff with more depth, for which I need to read and do research. And that was what I was doing. But then this happened and I felt I'm here and I belong here and I need to do something. But then there were all the restrictions. When there were the explosions which I just mentioned, I went there and it was clear from the body language of the security operatives who had pulled a cordon, a human cordon, blocking people away from the explosion site, from the debris. It was clear, like, I didn't need to ask. There is no possibility to make pictures. A few colleagues, the next day they were arrested for making pictures for Iranian news agencies, for Iranian newspapers. So it's not even about foreign press work. The paranoia had set in not to give data to a hostile government who is conducting assassinations based on data. So don't give them even more data. I can understand that from an intelligence point of view, but from a journalistic point of view, of course, that doesn't make any sense. And I have to oppose that. But it was clear, okay, there won't be access and it will be, I will just lose time, even if I don't get arrested, if I try to make pictures. And there are so many visuals coming out. So how can I make something that goes deeper, that gives you a better impression, that conveys the situation, like it gives a bigger picture of what is happening? And that was where I came back to the dispatches. I started writing down what I was experiencing as a citizen.
Are your feelings about Israeli people change with this attack, change with this war, or you felt about them the same 1 month ago, or the Iranian people is now hating Israeli more than before? Something changed there?
The Israeli government and military has been conducting a genocide in Gaza for the past 2 years. And that is what this conflict with Iran has been shedding the focus away from. That genocide, from a human perspective, if you believe in humanity, that belongs condemned. And as long as there are Israeli people condemning the genocide being conducted by the government, I don't have an issue with them. They are human. That's the bare minimum. Then we can talk. Otherwise, it's not about feelings. It's about humanity. There is a lot of critique regarding the Israeli state, which is the continuity of a colonial machine. It's a colonial machine, as Fanon has put it, is a machine of naked violence. It gives in when it is confronted with greater violence. That has been so in Algeria with France, that has been so in South Africa, and that will be regarding Palestine. That has been the course of history. And it's not about the Israeli people. Humankind are the same, but we have to agree on basics of humanity and humanism.
Thank you very much. We will spend almost 1 hour speaking. For the people who is here, I will translate it and I will post it later with subtitles. So thank you very much for the interview, and I hope the ceasefire became a peace and could last It's my desire.
Let's hope so. And thank you very much for taking interest in my work, and looking forward to seeing the piece out there.
It's gonna be soon. Thank you very much, and keep safe.
Thank you. Good night.